Hello and welcome to day 2 of the card making countdown. Today's project is for anyone like me that has a little bit of a problem with collecting pattern paper packs because they're really pretty or they're on sale and you just can't pass up the pretty designs and then you just don't use them because they're too pretty to use, right? You wouldn't want to cut into any of the lovely papers. Well, today is the day to say goodbye to storing patterned papers forever and leaving them unused, and hello to creating beautiful handmade cards using them. These are fractured cards, and they feature lots of different pattern papers all put together with a lovely frame to give you a custom background effect. I've left mine plain, but you can add any topper or embellishment or sentiment or stamp or die cut, anything you want into the middle of these cards or even towards the edge to finish them off and make them truly unique and special. There are 7 different templates included with today's free download, and here's how to get them. The files for this project are free for the next 24 hours. Here's how to download them. Register a free ticket for the card making countdown at craftwithsarah.com/cards24. After registering, you'll get an email which contains a link to the schedule page for the countdown. Visit the schedule page to find and download today's files. Each download is only available for free for 24 hours after it goes live. If you've missed some, check out the Instant Access Bundle at craftwithsarah.com/cards24 bundle, which gives immediate and ongoing access to all the files from the card making countdown, plus loads of extra bonus designs. The download folder for today's project contains 7 different fractured cards. I've uploaded one of them into Cricut Design Space, and this is the first design, so number 1 of 7. If you're not sure how to upload SVGs into Cricut Design Space, check the description of this video or the notes underneath, as I've included a link there to a separate video which shows how to upload. Don't worry that when it comes in, it's all in different shades of grey. That is exactly as I wanted it to be, so that we can see how to change the colours in this video. There isn't a lot to do in Design Space for this card. All I'm going to do is change the colours and add a score line. So first, let's do the score line. Click the design and ungroup it by pressing the Ungroup button at the top of the Layers panel. Go into Shapes and choose a score line. Size it to the height of the card, which is 7 inches, and then select the main base card and that score line. So you can see in the Layers panel they're both selected. Press Align and then Center, and that will put the score line right in the middle of that white rectangle. Don't worry that it's changed the position away from everything else, we'll fix that in a moment. With those 2 layers still selected, press Attach at the bottom of the Layers panel. Attach is what joins the score line onto the rectangle so that the Cricut will actually do it in the right place. This is now at the top of everything else. To move it back to the bottom, press Arrange and then Center back. And then we can move it about to put it back into position. It doesn't need to be exact, as long as it's rough, that's fine. Now we can start thinking about the colours. How I like to do these is to have a dark, solid colour of card, perhaps even black, if not maybe a dark purple, red, blue, or a metallic or holographic card also looks nice too, as this black layer. So if I pull this away so you can see, that's what this piece looks like, and I'm going to be using it to know where to stick all of the other shapes. They'll slot in like a jigsaw puzzle. I've then used a combination of different greys to show how you might want to arrange your colours for the other shapes. I've got a darker one in the middle, and this is where I'm going to put my embellishment or topper on in there, and then some around the edge. If you've got pattern paper packs that you've been hoarding for a special project, this could be the one to use it on, because these cards look especially beautiful when you use coordinating different pattern papers. If you don't have any pattern papers, but you would like some little pictures or patterns or something like that in your shapes, check out the description of this video because there's another link in there to how to use the pattern fill feature in Design Space. So you can upload any image or pattern and have your Cricut cut out these exact shapes from whatever pattern you upload. Once you've chosen your papers, you might want to change the colour of these shapes to help you remember which one to load at the right time. So, for instance, it can be easier if you change them to something that's really, really different from each other and then just make a note on a bit of paper. For instance, maybe I had a flower paper, I had a polka dot paper, and maybe a stripy paper for the middle. I might write on a scrap of paper or in a notebook, red equals flower, blue equals polka dot, and then let's go yellow equals stripes. And that will just remind me after I click make and follow this through to cut out the shapes from my paper, which of my pattern papers to load in at which point. And that's all I'm going to do. So I'll decide what to add in the middle a little bit later. I'll probably add another one of my layered designs shrunk down, but that will depend a little bit on what kind of paper I choose. So I'm not going to decide on that one just yet. The beauty of these designs is you can cut them out and make them and leave the middles bare until you know who you're going to be giving the card to and for what occasion. So that's it. I'm going to get everything cut out from my paper and card, and then we'll see how to stick it together. Here are all the pieces of my fractured card cut out. I've got my little shapes and my 3 different colours of pattern paper. This was all from the same pack, which was this Eastern Delights from Love to Craft. I bought this a very, very long time ago. Years and years ago, and as you can see, never actually used it, so I'm glad to be using it now for this card. Putting these together is really, really simple. All you need is some glue. I'm using Bearly Art glue, which is nice because it doesn't bend or wrinkle the paper. It's a little bit tricky to get hold of in the UK. I got it on Amazon, but it did work out a little expensive. Another option for glue that doesn't bend or wrinkle the card is Collall. What I like about the Bearly Art glue though is the precision nib, which is going to make this really easy. So turn this upside down and I'll glue it to my card front. Gluing the frame bit first means that all of the other bits, all the patterned bits, will just fit straight in like a jigsaw puzzle and be really easy to put in exactly the right place. Line this up along your base card so that your edges meet in all the corners. It can sometimes try and warp a bit where it's quite thin edges. Just make sure it all lines up, because if you don't quite stick it straight, you might find that some of your little pieces don't fit in. But there's that one, and then all I need to do is glue these into place. I'm going to put them into position first. You know what? I've managed to cut these the wrong way round. I was trying to be clever in Design Space and put everything onto one mat to cut it out, and then I put strips of my pattern paper on. And I've made a mistake because it should be opposite colours rather than the same ones like I've got here. But never mind, it's still going to look lovely. That's what happens when I don't check things properly in Design Space or before I start recording a video. I'll show you some better examples when I've stuck this one together. Here's my card, and it's now all ready for me to add something in the middle or to add a sentiment to it another time when I know who I'm going to be giving this to. Now, it should have been these corners in one paper and these corners in another paper, but I messed up in Design Space when I was cutting it out. Never mind, it still looks lovely, but how it should have looked is a little bit more like this one. So this is one of the other templates that are included in today's download. And you see on this one, it's the opposite sides. So it should have been a little bit more like that. I'll go through each of the different templates so you can see them in a bit more detail now. So there's these two follow that kind of square pattern on them. And then we've got 3 shapes. I love the colours on this one from this paper pack. It's so bright, and the pink I think really ties it all in together. There's that one. And a similar one here, and this is like a pastel Christmas theme going on. And then this one just with the 5 sides instead of 6. And I added holographic card for the outside frame, which gives it some lovely sparkle along with the gold on this pattern paper. And then there are 2 diamond patterns, one which goes this way around, and you can kind of see the gold I used on this one, like a brushed metal gold. It's got a Christmassy theme on the pictures. And then the final one is the diamond going the other way. On this one I've got little bumblebees. You can't really see, but this has got a nice leaf pattern on it and more bees at the bottom. And that is the 7 pre-made fractured cards included in today's download. But what if you want to make something a little different? Now let's look at designing your own fractured card using a different shape. I'll start with this as my base and just delete all of the shapes on here until I'm left with just the base card and the scoreline, just so that's already made. But of course you could recreate it with a rectangle and a new scoreline if you wanted. And I'll just hide that for now. Let's go and make the front of the card, which will be a 5x7 inch rectangle. And then I want my border on the inside. So to do that, click into Offset, and then choose the corner option. We want to have nice pointed corners, but drag the little slider inside the rectangle. So you're dragging it negatively so that it's coming up in here. And I think that's probably a good thickness. So I'll press Apply. Drag a box to select both of them and press Slice at the bottom of the Layers panel. That will cut the middles out. And we can delete those, and I just hit the delete key on my keyboard to delete them. You can also click the trash can icon up here. And now I'm just left with my outline. Next, choose your shape. I'll do a star for this one, but you can choose any shape you like really. If it's got straight edges, it's easier to build up the lines to make the different intersections. But for example, if you wanted to do something like a heart, you'll just have to kind of invent where to put your lines rather than following the corners on the design. But a star should be fairly easy, although there are lots of different points. So we'll go with this. All right, so I'm going to get my star roughly the size I want it to be on the final card, and then go into Offset again and choose another negative offset. Now this has kept the same number, which is good because it means it will be the same thickness on my star as on the outline. I think that makes it look a little bit too thick there, so I'm going to make my star bigger. And then I still think that looks a bit thick in comparison. I know it is exactly the same mathematically. It's just a little trick of the eye. So I'm going to go a tiny bit smaller. And then press, that's probably a bit too much. Press Apply. Once again, slice those 2 layers out from each other and delete the middles. Now drag a box around these 2 shapes and go Align and then center horizontally to put that star exactly in the middle this way. I'm not going to put it in the middle vertically as well, because I think it kind of looks a little bit nicer nearer the top of that rectangle. And now we need to start building up the lines. To make this easier, I'm going to move this down a bit so that I've got a nice amount of the Design Space canvas at the top of my screen available. And that's so I can make nice long lines to know that they're definitely going to fit over my border, and then I'll cut off any excess at the end. All right, we'll zoom in again. Turn off these grid lines to make it a little easier to see. Go into Shapes and choose a square. Untick the padlock icon above the width and the height boxes by clicking it to open it up. And then I'm going to drag this and move it over my border. Change the colour so it's easier to see. And I want to make this the same width, near enough, as my border. It doesn't have to be 100% exact. And actually, it would probably be better if I made it the border of the star, because I made that a little bit thinner than that edge. So, rotated this to kind of match my star line there. And then it's not quite the right rotation. You can also see a bit easier by changing this to a guide under Operations and then go to Guide. That changes it to a pink outline. It just might make it a little easier for you to see when you've got it that same thickness, because it's now see-through. And then I'll make it really long, longer than I'm going to need. And you see that is matching nicely on there. Okay, we'll go back to a basic cut, but make it a different colour to everything else, just so it's easier to see. And I'm not sure that's entirely lined up right, so I'm just going to go a little bit more in. And now you need to decide where you want your lines to go. I'm going to stick mine out from there, and then probably down from there and there. So we're going to go out all the different points of the star. Okay. As I've already got this at the right angle, leave that one up there. I'm trying to get it as close as I can so it lines up with that star. You could use the arrow keys on your keyboard to move it about a little bit more. And if you're really struggling with your mouse, you've got this position X and Y at the top that you can type into. So if I just show you by typing in 10 in there and hitting enter, you see it moved it on the screen. But that's looking pretty good, so I'm going to keep it at that one. Click the line, duplicate it, and then I want to extend this one out too. This is a mirror image of this side, so that's nice and easy because I can just flip my line horizontally and then put it into place on the star. Make sure nothing overlaps inside the middle of the star. It's fine to overlap over the edge of the border rectangle, but not into the middle of the star. It's not quite in the right place, so let's just move it over a little more. And then we'll just do the same thing for all the other points where we want to extend it. And make sure you don't alter the width of any of these, but you can change the height so that they're not as long. So I'm actually going to do this one next, I think. To line up that angle. Oops, I just changed the thickness. That's looking good. A little bit more rotation. There's a little bit more gap there. That one's all right. And then we'll do this one. Probably need to make it longer again. I'm doing this fairly quickly for the video. So I might not be 100% on my angles. The more time you spend on it, just checking everything, the better. But I'm conscious that you probably don't want to be watching this for absolutely ages. I'm just making sure that's gone over the edge at the bottom, which it has. And then we can do the other side. So duplicate. Because my star is symmetrical, I can flip it. Put that one in place. And again, with this one, I'm going to duplicate and flip it. And put this one on there. I think that one might need to come in just the tiniest bit. There we go. And that's in my star middle a little bit. There we go. All right, so let's zoom out and see if you're happy with where all of those shapes are sitting. I think I'm going to move my border up a bit so that I've got more of a triangle here where these lines intersect. Well, that's good. Let's move the star to the front just to see that I am happy with that one. So what I can do is select all of my layers, so all my yellow lines and the star, but don't select the rectangle. And then go combine and weld to join them together. If you notice at this point that you've got any kind of dodgy edges, for example here, you can see it's not quite straight. It's got some tiny little bits going into it. Now is the time to fix it. To fix it, press undo. And the reason for it is that this line was just kind of digging into the corner a little bit. That one is 2, so I'll move it down. And then that's looking better. Try that weld again. Combine and weld. There we go, much neater. Still a little bit there, but I don't think that will notice when it's actually cut out. The next thing to do is to zoom out until you can see all of the edges of the rectangle. We need to cut off the excess. So go into shapes and choose a rectangle. I'll make it a different colour so it's easier to see what I'm doing. And then we want to drag that over anything that's poking out the top. And then about halfway into your border rectangle. Don't go all the way in. Make sure you can still see some of that border. And then do the same thing for all of the different sides. So 4 in total. Here we go. Then when you've covered that all up, select all of your squares and combine and weld to join them. Now we can slice them out of my star. So I'll select both of, oh no, I just moved something around then. I didn't mean to do that. Select both of them, so my blue and my yellow, and slice. And that will cut it out. So now we don't need any of the blue. We don't need the yellow poking around the edge. Delete that one. And then select both of these and go combine, weld. And now we've got the border for our card. Can turn the card back on. And there we go. That's looking lovely. But we're still not quite finished because we need to make the shapes to go in all of these sections to be cut out from our pattern paper. I'm going to click on my star shape, and then there is a way to duplicate exactly in place, and that's by using the Alt key on your keyboard. So if I press Alt, you see my mouse cursor changed. I've let go now. It's gone back to normal. Hold Alt down and click with the mouse. And that makes a duplicate in exactly the same place. If I change the colour and then hide this one, you can see the original is still underneath. To fill in the gaps so that it only cuts the gap shape out, click and then go into contour down the bottom. Press hide all contours. That will fill everything in. Now click the one you want to show. I'm going to go this one. And then press the rectangle at the very top. And you see how this has changed so that now only this section is in that darker grey. That means when I close this window, that's all that's left. And that's what I want. That would be cut from my pattern paper. You'll need to do this for every single shape and do it separately. So I'm going to press Alt and click. And then I'll make this one yellow again because I'll do this one this side. Go into contour, hide all contours, click the one you want to keep, and then click the rectangle at the top. Close that out, and now I've got this piece. The reason that I'm doing this on two separate layers rather than joining them together is so that when I go and click Make It, it's going to let me move these about on my mat if I wanted to. If you weren't bothered about saving your pattern paper, so making sure you didn't use any more than you needed to, then what you could do instead is go into contour, hide all contours, select everything you want to be in that same colour, then select the rectangle and close. So I could do all my yellow as one layer, but that means when you go and press Make It, it's going to cut in exactly this position. So it's kind of a waste of all of your pattern paper that appears in this space because you're not going to end up using it. So that's why I do it one at a time, even though it does take a little bit longer. All right, so I've got these three, which I'll do in one other colour, and then the star in a separate colour. I'm going to whiz through this now really quickly. I'm not going to talk through the steps, just going to go, so you can see the final result in a minute. And hopefully by doing it quickly like this, although trying to press buttons and talk at the same time is not that easy. Hopefully it will help you to see that once you kind of get used to what you're doing, it can go really, really quickly to create these different fractured effects. It's that one. Then I've just got my star to do another completely different colour. And there. And there we go. That's our custom fractured card, all finished and ready to cut out. Let's see what it looks like all cut out and made up. Here is my custom made fractured card, all cut and stuck together. I used a little Valentine's Day themed paper pack for this one and then marred it with kind of a dusky pink border. I really like how this has turned out with all of the colours, and it looks really, really nice with the focal point in the middle. But I could always add something, or a topper here maybe, or a happy Valentine's Day sentiment, anything I want in the future, or it's totally beautiful to just leave as is. And that can then be added to all of the other fractured cards for a lovely complete collection. I hope that you enjoyed this video for day 2 of the card making countdown. If you did, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel for loads more card making and Cricut videos. I hope to see you tomorrow for day 3. Thank you for watching. Bye!